So, Made in Abyss, the tragic masterpiece. This show is pretty amazing and pretty much shot up my list of anime. And if you are thinking about watching this is going to be a spoiler-free anime review. And season 2 of Made in Abyss just started, so you could very well watch the first season and the movie, and then you can get right into this. And yes, I said the first season and the movie because there's two ways you can watch this show. You can watch it with the 13 episodes and then watch the third movie, or you can just watch all 3 movies. So for the people that's watched the first 2 movies, let me know in the comments how different the movie is from the anime. I only watched the anime. That's another thing also. This review, or review in progress because the show is still going, is going to be from the perspective of an anime watcher only. So no spoilers, and I'm going to give you all the goods, the bads, and the in-betweens about this show. So stay tuned. If you think this is something you might be interested in, like, comment, subscribe, turn on the bell notification, and let's go ahead and get to this breakdown. Okay, so if you haven't been here before and you haven't watched one of my anime reviews, we review these animes on 5 aspects: the animation, the plot, the characters, the fights, and the soundtrack. Sometimes we'll switch the fights out if, we're watching a slice of life. There's, of course, not going to be any fights. But that's what we're going to be talking about. But before we get into the breakdown, the basic synopsis of the story, it follows the story of Rika and a humanoid robot, Reg. And basically, the story is about Rika and Reg descending into this thing that we call the Abyss. The Abyss has major layers. It has multiple layers, and each layer that you go down, you get inflicted with this thing called the curse of the Abyss. And this is different psychological and physical effects. So this could mean things like throwing up, nausea, or hallucinations. And the reason why they're going down this abyss is because Rika receives a message from her mother saying that she's waiting at the bottom of the abyss for her. And this is basically the synopsis of the story. It's basically the story of Rika and Reg ascending down the abyss and doing the impossible, something that nobody has ever done. So we talk about the animation. There's not many fights in this show. There are some, but that's not where the animation sticks out. The animation sticks out when you see the world. The world that you see Rika and Reg actually going through, seeing the animals, the creatures, the plants, just all these weird shapes and things. This is where the animation sticks out, and truthfully, the animation is a pretty, it's a pretty decent and big part of the show, and it just looks beautiful. So if you're watching the show, you're not going to have any issues with the animation. It's going to be something that you're really going to appreciate, and you're definitely going to appreciate the detail that they put into the world. So, now we get into the plot. Like I was saying, with the plot, like I said, Rika and Reg ascending down the abyss, each layer, the effects get more and more drastic. So the story might start off slow for some. To me, it didn't start off slow, but if you've watched anything that's had kids, like, something like My Hero or something like that, or Erased, there's going to be the certain, the build-up, introduce you to the characters, introducing you to the world, and things like that. And I also didn't mention the reason why these people go down the abyss is because they're crazy. No, but truthfully, there are these things called cave raiders, and along with going down the abyss, along with the adventure aspect of it, there's also these different relics and just different things that are worth money, and also, they're just explorers, so that's really why they want to go down there. The plot it's a pretty simple plot, but the way that they execute it is well enough, and there's not many plot holes in the story as you're going through the story. In the beginning, you might in your head be thinking, how is this happening? Why are they letting them do this? But as the story goes on, you start to realize, you just start to see like how this is happening, and they make it realistic. So another thing also, there's very interesting characters. Now, if you've watched a lot of anime, there's not going to be like any characters that, any character types that you haven't seen before, but the characters they have in this show are very well written, and you're going to find some characters that are very likable. Now, there is one thing they do in the show a little bit, it might seem a little weird to you, but they do have a few like, provocative sexual jokes, which can come off as being weird because, this show is supposed to be following the aspect of little kids, so seeing kids like make sexual jokes is a little bit strange for some, but it's just meant to be comedy, and it doesn't happen that much. They don't overly saturate the show with this aspect. Another thing you need to also know, there is happy parts, but this is not a happy anime. This is a very sad and a very dark anime, and it's a seinen anime. So if you've watched seinen before, things like Tokyo Ghoul, yes, there's going to be some aspects that are going to be uncomfortable, so be prepared for that. And you also just got to give this show some time. The first 6 episodes can, be like a little bit like, it's a little bit dark. Once we get past episode 6, and especially past episode 10, that's when you really start to see the seinen aspect of it. So I mean, it's only 13 episodes, so you know, just give it a try. So as far as the characters go, like I said, there's not going to be any character types that you haven't seen in an anime before if you've watched a decent amount of anime, but you can appreciate Reg will surprise you. He's actually a very much more intelligent character than what you think he'll be. Rika does have a little bit of a save me mentality for all my Sakura haters, but it's not extremely bad, and you definitely get to see the characters grow. Now, another thing also, if you have other characters that you enjoy, some of them might lose relevance because, like I said, for the most part, this story is going to follow Rika, Reg, and some other characters that I won't say. But that is the main, thing about the characters. For the most part, it's just Rika and Reg, and there's some other characters, but you're going to find somebody that you enjoy, and like I said, they're very well written. So the fights in this show, the fights aren't really focused on being like, visually stunning, like really quick animations and moves like that. It's more so a sense of suspense. So if you've watched The Promised Neverland, that's the feeling these fights are going to give you. They're going to give you a feeling of fear and a feeling of sadness, because you also see them interact with creatures and things like that. And I feel like they do a very good job of making you feel, a little bit scared for these characters. They're kids. They're kids out in the wilderness. So yeah, this is what the fights are going to do to you, except when you get into the movie. The last movie, the third movie, does have some pretty good fighting scenes, some pretty good animation in that. So the fights all around in the show are pretty good, but it's not an important aspect of it. The main aspect of the show is the world building and the adventure that Rika and Reg go on. And lastly, soundtrack / intros. The intro itself, while it's not, it's not on Unravel level or nothing like that, but it is a very good intro, and it fits the theme of the show. It gives you that lightheartedness, but then also towards the end of it, you get that creepiness, that feeling like, things might be a little bit serious, and you also get to see a little bit of the world. And it's just, the intro very well displays the characters for their personalities and who they are. The soundtrack actually in the show, if I'm being honest with you, I didn't remember too many songs from the OST, besides this one song that they play at the end of the first episode, and they play it again, but I'm not going to spoil you for when they play it again. But it's a pretty nice sounding song, and for that you can appreciate the OST, and it has some pretty decent soundtracks. So for the ratings that we're going to do for the show, like I said, the animation, while they don't just fully stick out when it comes to fights and stuff like that until you get to the movie, the world that you get to see and just seeing all the creatures and the way that they just animate them is honestly just amazing. And for that, we can give the animation a solid 9.2 out of 10. So when it comes to the plot, like I said, the plot is pretty simple. It's not something that's extremely extravagant and just deep, but the way that they actually implement the plot and the way they go through it, and they try to limit the plot holes that is in the story and the world building, all when it just comes together, it truly does just leave you in awe. And for that, we got to give Made in Abyss a solid 9.5 out of 10 for the plot. So when we go over to the characters, like I said, most of the characters, you've probably seen their character type before in an anime, besides maybe Reg. Reg could maybe be a little bit different, but for some people, they could also make a comparison to, like, another otherworldly character that has that little bit of ignorance to, the world around them. So for that, the characters aren't bad, but there's also just nobody that's just extremely unique. And for that, we'll give the characters a solid 8.8 out of 10. So we move over to the fights. Like I said, for the most part, the fights are going to be more so suspenseful and just give you a feeling of being scared until you get to the movie, and then that's when, you might see some pretty nice things. And like I said, let me know in the comments if in the other two movies, if there was actually some more better fight sequences than what was in the show. But for that, we'll give the fights a solid 8 out of 10. And then for the intros and outros and the soundtrack, like I said, the soundtrack itself, I didn't remember too many songs from it besides the one song, and then also the intro was pretty good. So for that, we'll give the soundtrack a solid 8.5 out of 10. So all around, Made in Abyss gets, a grade of 44 out of 50. And, according to the chart that some random guy on the internet made, it's a great anime. So I very well think that, you should give it a try. But all in all, Made in Abyss is definitely something that you should take the time to watch. And like I said, it's only 13 episodes, a movie, and then you got season 2. So truthfully, for the amount of episodes that it has, it truly is an amazing show. And so far, it's the show that I've given the highest rating on this channel after, you know, rating animes. So I definitely think it's something you should give it a try if you can handle seinen anime. If you don't really like dark, uncomfortable things, this might not be the anime for you, because I'm just telling you now, you are going to be uncomfortable when it comes to certain things. But let me know how y'all felt about my review in the comments, and let me know about your experience with Made in Abyss if you have watched this show and if you are watching it, you know, up to date. Because like I said, this has moved up my list as one of my favorite top 10 animes at this moment. But I'm going to see y'all next time. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn the bell notification, and we out of here. We up.